All right, well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'll let the hugs wrap up. Well, it is good to have everybody here today. As you know, we're here for a marriage seminar, and it is exciting. I'm excited. Our speakers today are Wayne and Tami Roberts, and they're excellent folks. I first met them at Bear Valley, where Wayne taught the advanced homiletics class, and Keeley sat in some ladies' classes under Tami. They've written an excellent book. What's the title of your book? Soulmates. I'd encourage you to pick it up. It's a really good book, and I very much encourage you all to listen to what they have to say. It's going to be a great day. As far as the normal things we got to take care of, please silence your cell phones. There is a bathroom in the back. There's another bathroom here. Feel free to use them if you need them. And we have lunch provided downstairs. There will also be a breakout session where the men and ladies separate. The men will be going downstairs. Let the ladies have the comfortable seats. So, with that, I will hand it off to our speakers.
I don't know how uncomfortable the seats downstairs are going to be today. Make sure I'm on here. I'm loud, but I always hit that button twice, so. There we go. We are excited to be here. I know that this is the furthest north and east we've been. We find that we are best received as far away from home as possible. So, but we are really glad to be here and appreciate the invitation and the opportunity. It has a degree of extra special to it. We have obviously David and Keeley. We've known Keeley for a long time and her family and have come to appreciate them. And Don and Chris, who have wandered all the way from, as I said, we've seen them twice in the last year. We live about 3.5 hours away from each other. We don't see them except in New Mexico and New Hampshire. So, I know. Yes. Here's the thing is, there's no other news. We've covered all those, and so, but we really are. It's good to be here and to get to meet some of you and get to know you. I want to just say a quick word to all of the men, and that is, take a breath, okay? I teased about the seats being uncomfortable, but this is going to be one of those times in which we are just asking everybody to be relaxed. We want this to be a good and an encouraging day. We're going to laugh a little, and we always find that there's somebody that cries a little bit, but that's not our fault. We want it to be a day in which we're not going to make you stand up and tell all your marital woes. I tell all the guys that's for the drive home. You can clarify all of those things and everything. But we are really glad to be here, and we hope that today's profitable. Just David already did a couple of housekeeping things, but in the back on the table behind you, there are some pens, there are some little stickers. We'll have more to say about those. There are also some little bracelets that come from our favorite passage in Song of Solomon that says, "Let us run away together." And that's what we're going to have you do a little bit today. So pick one or even a couple of those up. I did have someone here a few years ago that came up to me and said, "Hey, I was at your seminar a year ago and my pen is out of ink already." And I said, "It was a free pen. What did you expect? Get yourself another pen." So if you think you might need a second one, that would be great. Let me just give you a quick background, and then I want Tami to tell you a little bit about us, but how we got to this point. And I don't just mean to New Hampshire. I mean, how did we get now almost 10 years of doing these marriage and parenting and family seminars? It came, and I got to tell you a little bit about us. We have 5 kids, but our days look something like this. Kids went off to school. I went off to work. I came home. Kids had a little bit of chores. They had some recreation time. We got ready for dinner. We ate dinner. Then they got dinner wrapped up. We got cleaned up. They had a little more TV time, a little bit of recreation time, wrap up any homework, all the stuff ready for bed. And that, we have a little bit of a discussion here. I thought bedtime was 8:30. Tami thought it was 7. Apparently our kids thought it was 10, because that's about the time that they finally were all quiet, okay? And so you would think, well, that's a perfect time for this couple to, spend some time together. Not for Tami. She's had a day of this. She goes off to the bathroom for an hour-long soak in the tub. And I don't know what all goes on in there. Sometimes I hear singing. Sometimes I hear laughing. Sometimes I hear crying. I don't know what all's happening in there. It's my way of catching up on all my TV shows. But then she'd come back in, and from about 11 until midnight was our time. We might play a game. We might watch some television. We might visit. But then, right, midnight comes along. It's like, hey, it's a new day. We probably ought to go to bed and be ready for it. And that was our routine. But that was expected with a household of that size. And so what happened is when our kids, I sort of say grew up, they got older. Some of them are still working on growing up. But they got older and they moved out. Our routine stayed the same. I mean, even to this day, it'll be like, aren't you going to take a bath? And she goes, it's only 9:58. It's like she's waiting. We're both dead tired. And on one particular occasion, I don't remember, I think I'd already had a couple of naps on the couch that evening. And I said, I got to go to bed. When she got out of the tub, I said, I am exhausted. And she says, well, I'm not tired yet, but we have always gone to bed together with a few special circumstances like sickness or travel. And so what she does is she sets up to read. Now, that doesn't bother me. God gave me these two little shades, and once I close them, it's good night, sweet prince. But she's got a little bit more to take care of, a little more pomp and circumstance. First of all, she wears contact lenses, but those come out at bath time, and she's got this pair of glasses that she got in the 3rd grade that she puts on. But she's trying to keep up with me, and so what she does, she has a pair of reading glasses, which she has to use for reading, so she puts them on in front of the other glasses, okay? So there's 2 pairs of glasses here. Her natural curly hair becomes natural kinky hair. She's kind of got this little tight afro when she gets out from the steam of the bath. And in this peculiar place we are in life, she's really, really hot, so she puts on something lightweight, but she doesn't want to get really, really cold, so she puts on a flannel pajama top over the top of it, but she doesn't want to get too hot, so she has me turn on the fan. It's a complicated hot and cold thing. Yes, all I know about it is apparently it's my fault, okay? That's all I know about it. But she gets in bed. She's got this gigantic book. It's got a little book light on it, which doesn't really illuminate the page. It just shines directly in my eyes. And it's about fairies and unicorns, some weird, bizarre thing. But anyway, we get in bed, and I kind of slur out, I love you. And she says, I love you. And she reaches over and kisses me. And with the one eye that's still out of the pillow, I kind of took a look up at her, and I thought, that is the goofiest gal I have ever seen in my life. But I had a bit of an epiphany, if I call it that, or a revelation, if you will. I thought, I'm glad she's my gal, even if she's goofy. I'm glad she's the mother of my children, the grandmother to my grandchildren. I'm glad that her story intersected my story and that she has become my wife. And then it hit me. What if that's not the case? What if instead I am her husband? And I am the father to her children and the grandfather to her grandchildren. In fact, it was my story that intersected her story, and I have become part of her life. Now, you may say, well, that just sounds like semantics, but it was a real change of perspective for me. Though we had a good marriage, I think it's pretty average, but it had its peaks and it certainly had its valleys. But I had always looked at our marriage from my pair of shoes. I'd always looked at them from my perspective, my hopes, my dreams, my wants, my desires, and very rarely, if ever, did I pause to say, I wonder what it's like to be looking at me from her perspective. And so I got up the next morning and I apologized, and I said, with what time God gives us together, the remainder part of our life, I want to try to look at our marriage from your pair of shoes. I want to walk, as I heard one guy told me this last week, he said, before you ever get in a fight with somebody, you need to walk a mile in their shoes. Because one, you'll be a mile away from them, and you'll have a new pair of shoes. So I just knew that I needed to look at our marriage, and I will just tell you that it changed a lot. When I began to realize that everything for her wasn't Oprah and bonbons in her day, and that I wasn't the only one that was carrying a burden, and all those kind of things, it dramatically changed. And so what we're going to do today is we want to invite you to go with us a little bit to walk in the shoes of your spouse. So we'll probably give you some practical tips. They usually surround, here's what we did, don't do that. And we'll give you some things from God's Word we believe that we know work, and those are the things we want to encourage you to do. But we really want you to just pause and have a greater appreciation when you leave today for your spouse, and I'm hopeful that will have the same result in your life as it did in ours.
When Wayne, this was all Wayne's idea to do the marriage seminar. I rolled him when he said we should do it, because I looked at us and thought, what can we share about marriage? We'd been married, 10 years less than what we are right now. How long have we been married? He's actually the female in our relationship. Yeah. And I am the male.
Originally, I wanted to call this his high heels, her high heels, but it didn't work that way. I don't have the legs for it. So, but
I think we've been married 41 years.
Very good. 41, yeah.
41 years this year. So I'm thinking, well, we can't do this. We can't share about marriage. But we decided the fact that we were still together and we still really pretty much loved each other, maybe we could encourage other people in marriage. Maybe we could share. We have 5 kids. As Wayne said, they're scattered all over the place. Some of them are struggling with some growing up issues right now, but God is patient, so I'm working to be patient too. We have 10 grandkids scattered from Michigan, Colorado, and Oklahoma. They're in there. So we have 10 grandkids. What a blessing those are. I think we're the only grandkids that I've ever heard of that actually moved away from their grandparents that moved away from their grandkids, because we had a ministry opportunity for Wayne in Houston. So we were living in Oklahoma with our grandkids, picked up and moved to Houston for a new adventure. So
that's not completely fair. It just so happened that our grandkids were living with our kids, and we moved away from our kids. They kept following. It just so happened that our grandkids were there.
But our intention today is to share some stories with you, to share some Bible with you, and just to encourage you. I pray that you leave today lifted up and feel better about your marriage and about your walk together. So that's our purpose for today, is to encourage you.
Yeah. Tami, some other time we'll try to share. We can share our full story, because it is less than conventional, our story. But I think we, like every other couple, and I would venture guess every couple in this room, whether you've been married a short period of time, a long period of time, or maybe no period of time at all, are looking for happily ever after, right? I mean, we get it plastered in our face all the time, and that is, this is what, think about it. From the time little girls are little, they hear that story about Cinderella, right? The handsome prince and the ball and the bibbity bobbity boo where squirrels dress her. It's all kinds of stuff, and it gets laid out in front of him, and all of that happens. He goes around, finally finds the only 6.5 in the entire kingdom and puts that glass slipper on her. But those stories always end how? And they lived happily ever after, just like real life, right? Young men, they also are given a kind of a picture. It's a fantasy land, more obscene and vulgar than that one, but the world of sexual immorality, pornography, is a fantasy land of sorts. In fact, I asked, what's the difference between Walt Disney and Hugh Hefner, the founder of the Playboy empire? And somebody said, rabbits, and that's not the answer. The answer is that they both portray an unrealistic view of the relationship between men and women. Like I said, one is far more obscene and vulgar, but I'm not so sure that the nice, friendly, happy bird chirping one is any better for us. And so our world convinces us that this is what relationship looks like, this is what love looks like, this is what marriage looks like. And then when couples get into that and find out that the fantasy land isn't a fantasy land like they read in the book or they saw on the screen, they're ready to bail. And so before we can lay some new work, some new foundations, what we're going to need to do is we're going to spend some time this morning right off the bat. We want to untangle some of these misconceptions, because we have found that a lot of couples, and not just newly married couples, couples that have been married 40 and 50 years, are still in pursuit of the fantasy land, and that misconception is not achieved because it's a misconception that they bail out of the marriage, even if they continue to live together in the same house. And so, kind of like fishing in a Colorado stream, we're going to have to untangle some line before we can cast again. So we just kind of broke down 5 misconceptions, and that's what we want to start with this morning. And the first of these has to do with the idea that couples are looking for lust, not love. We define love as that which seeks the well-being of another over oneself. That's a Bible, that's a God-given definition of love. But for many, they think that love is that ooey, gooey, heartfelt, thumping heart kind of love. Now, I'm not saying that it isn't. If you were to look at Song of Solomon, chapter 1, you went, nope, I will not look at Song of Solomon. That's a scary book along with Revelation. But it is that the couple has an emotional attraction, they have a physical attraction, and there's a recognition of the importance of each one of them as each other as a person. So it's not that that's wrong, but it is more than that. And so you're going to find that idea of, well, one day I don't feel it anymore. One day it's not what I thought it was going to be, or maybe even they don't deserve it. I think external beauty is a perfect example of that, right? As young men, young women, we try to cultivate that. We want to look good, right? Oh, he can't see me without the makeup. Oh, I'll make sure she sees that I can do this or I can do that, all those kind of things. And that's because we are convinced that everybody looks beautiful if they're beautiful, right? I mean, that's what makes them beautiful. I mean, think, ladies, that Ariel, that Little Mermaid, her hair looks good even wet, right? I mean, it's nice. And so we pattern ourselves after that, we work on that, and then we find somebody, and probably our first attraction to them had to do with the physical, right? I mean, we have a physical attraction, so we went, oh, he's handsome, oh, she's cute, and we begin to pursue that, and then what happens is, well, we go to bed one night with the princess, and we wake up the next morning with the ogre Shrek, right? I'm sure you ladies have had a similar experience. All of a sudden, things change, right? The hair that stays on our head grays, and that doesn't just lets go and lets God, right? It goes. Then we have that idea of, well, we begin to wrinkle. We begin to find that our physical appearance is what? Now, I mean, we all stay in shape because, well, round is still a shape. But, you know, we keep doing it, and we're working all those kinds of things. But what happens is when the love relationship is based on what I call lust, physical desire, physical attraction, when the heart beats, we go, now that the beauty has faded, it seems as if so has my love faded. And I'm not in love with this person anymore. In fact, I'm in love with someone I work with. And what that really means is I've fallen out of lust with my spouse, and I have fallen into lust with another one. Because that idea of loving one another has been based only on that superficial thing. And it could be the love of beauty, it could be the love of money or prosperity or provision. It could be just in the love of, hey, we love each other as long as everything's going great, right? And then we don't love when things are the poor and all that kind of stuff. And so I want you to understand that the most important thing is to realize that our spouse, as I said, is to recognize their value as a person. It's that value that goes beyond the superficial things. It goes to who they really are. And like I said, it is in the Song of Solomon that we have a description of your name, right? Your character and who you are. That's the thing that we need to be developing in our own life, develop in the lives of our young people. That needs to be the thing that we pursue and that thing that we prize the very most. And so pursuing true love after a love of our spouse far exceeds that lust for our spouse.
The second thing we want to talk about is so many people go into marriage looking for that castle without any hassle. They think that once they say, I do, everything will be perfect. It's going to be so good. All of my dreams will be fulfilled. And so they go in thinking that, and the first hiccup that comes along, the first problem, the first argument, the first loss of a job, the first health issue, it's like, whoa, 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 I didn't sign up for this. This isn't what I was looking for. In fact, I've had young women contact me, talk to me about the fact that they'd been married just a few weeks, and they're going, but we fight. We fight all the time. And I'm going, you've put two personalities in a house together. It's going to happen. Like, no, you don't understand. I never saw my parents fight. There must be something wrong with us. And I went, well, your parents are really tricky because they were fighting somewhere, but you didn't see it. But they don't understand. And so they think there's something wrong with their marriage the first time they have an argument. And I have to talk them through and go, no, it's okay. It's how you work through issues. It's how you talk through them. You just have to learn to do it in a way that you're not killing each other. You just have to figure it out. So they go in thinking everything is going to be wonderful when, if you've been married very long at all, you know there's issues that come along. There just are. There are problems. You make a vow to one another to love and to cherish and all of these things in sickness and in health, but that first real sickness comes along. And ladies, we know how men behave when they're sick. Poor things. Poor things. And if you've had children and you've been sick, you know that doesn't matter. You keep moving forward. So you go, okay, no. But you work through those things. You look at each other and go, okay, we're different. This is how we work through them. But understanding life has bumps. It just does. Just because you said I do doesn't mean your car will never have another car problem again. In fact, I felt like it amplified once we said I do. But you work through those things. And we have to learn to be equipped to do that, to make sure we're talking and communicating so that we can work through those issues.
We hear people say marriage is 50-50, and I said, no, divorce is 50-50. And so we used to say marriage is 110% and 110%. And then we realized neither one of us have ever performed at 110%. And so we finally concluded that marriage is her 35% and my 25%. And we just put all our effort into doing what needs to be done. It's been kind of tragic because we watch couples that, if you ever seen these people that climb like the tallest mountain peaks, Mount Everest, right? I mean, it is not an easy trek. Not everybody tries it. So they land at a base camp, they cross this rocky field and then across a glacier and over a chasm and up a sheer face, and then as the temperature and the oxygen level drop, they get all the way to the top. And I understand there's like 200 guys and gals that are frozen in the ice that have died on the way up. That can be discouraging, right? But I've never heard one get to the top and go, that was a disappointment. But what happens is, in the same way, there are a lot of couples that they begin to make the climb. They see marriages around them that have failed. They see the obstacles and difficulties, and they go, I just think I'm bailing out here. And they move to another mountain to start all over again, and they never see the peak. It's the hardest thing that we've had to communicate, even to our own children, much less to a seminar, and that's this. On this side of those problems, the view is tremendous. Is it without problems? Oh no, there's still problems. They're different. But you see so much clearer, and so the idea is stick with it. Every marriage has problems.
I think also in those problems, we tend to be such prideful people. We kind of carry those problems to ourselves. We think our marriage is the only one having this problem. No one would understand. Look at all the other Christian marriages. They're doing so great. We must be failing. And so we carry that in ourselves. And so we need to make sure we're praying to put that pride aside so that we can reach out to others. And as couples that have been married for several years, you need to be watching for the lives of others. We live in a culture that tells us it's none of our business, but that's not the church. It is our business. It is our business to take care of each other and help each other through these hard times. So as couples that are older, watching those younger couples, encourage them, lift them up in that. Also, seeing a counselor if you're going through issues and you can't figure out how to work it out yourself. Reach out to somebody that can help you through that. Don't just stay in the issue. That just makes it worse. It doesn't make it better. So working through that. Every marriage has issues. Understand that and find somebody to talk to. So.
Okay. Number 3, and that is the people that are looking for a soulmate, S-O-U-L, and not a soulmate, S-O-L-E. This is the idea that is portrayed in the, in the perfect man and the perfect woman that comes together in those fantasies. I know about the princess. She's beautiful and she talks sweet and she sings lovely and, that's just perfect. I've learned that of the handsome princes, these are the 2 characteristics. Number 1, he's muscular. And number 2, he rarely speaks. And apparently,
unless he's singing.
Unless he's singing. And brides seem to like that in a man. He's muscular and he keeps his mouth closed. I like that. But anyway, it's this idea of I'm going to find the perfect mate. God has selected for me the perfect mate. And then we come home as a young man, a young woman, and we go, I found them. I found them. Well, what's their name? I don't know yet, but I found them. I found the perfect one. Or what do you know about them? Nothing, but I found the one. This is the one, And the parents and counselors and preacher and Bible school teachers say, okay, slow down. Just wait a minute. Do you know the story about Romeo and Juliet? They loved each other. They fell in love in one night, and they were going to be together forever. And the more that their parents said they shouldn't be together, boy, it just drew them together. That was what I find. I said, do you know the story of Romeo and Juliet? I said, everybody ends up dead at the end, right? But this idea that I have the perfect mate, I have the soul mate, I have the one that God has selected. Let me just say this right now. I only know of one divinely orchestrated wedding ever. Now, I'm not saying God doesn't work providentially, doesn't answer the prayers of parents and grandparents and even a couple that says, help me find a godly spouse. But it's Adam and Eve, right? God makes Adam. He makes the perfect mate Eve. He puts them together. We don't have this conversation, but I imagine at some point in time, they had nothing much to do, that Adam asked one of those dumb husband questions like, hey, Eve, do you love me? And she goes, huh? He goes, do you love me? And she goes, of course I love you. Who else? Right? But it doesn't work that way. God allows us the opportunity to be involved in the process, and we get to choose. But then what happens is we find out that our mate isn't perfect. And sometimes, I don't mean it to be harsh, but I'll somebody say, hey, I found out that my husband or my wife isn't perfect. And I said, that's good news. Otherwise, you'd be single. Right? They had a lapse in judgment. Because there's nobody that's perfect. And so when the perfect relationship demands the perfect spouse, him and her, it's going to struggle in that. I just summarized it this way. I did not select Tammy because she was, quote unquote, the one. She became the one when I selected her. That's when I determined she was my one and only, not simply because God had moved the pieces in some grand eternal chessboard and it just so happened we lined up face to face and we said, I guess that's what this is intending for us.
You're on a roll.
I'd like to say more about Tammy at this point. Apparently, she's giving me No, that's this idea of the couple that is looking for endless excitement. If you think about it early on in the dating, the courtship, whatever it is, not so much maybe in the arranged marriage, but it's one exciting thing after another. We first get to know each other, and then we go someplace like to eat or to the movies or the amusement park, and there's all this excitement, and finally one day somebody says, hey, we ought to get married, right? And so it's all the excitement of planning for the wedding day, and the wedding day, there's there's gowns and there's grub. I mean, I said it's a day that ends in cake. Can it get better than that, right? So it's all about excitement, but we don't want it to end. You know what we need? A honeymoon. 3, 5, 7, 10, 14 days in an exotic paradise, right? And off we go, and it's endless excitement. We're going to bike, and we're going to sleep in, and we're going to climb a mountain, and we're going to swim, and all those kinds of things. And then we get home, and real life sets in. We get to our desk, and our coworker says, well, the honeymoon is over, right? We're not even into it yet, but they all say, oh, that's the excitement. And so we want to make sure that we plan for excitement, right? What are we going to do about that? You know what we need to do? We should have anniversaries. This is a wife's role. She sets up a series of anniversaries. There's the birthday anniversary. There's the wedding anniversary. There's Christmas anniversary. There's Valentine's Day anniversary. There's the anniversary of the first time we both wore blue together. I mean, there's an anniversary for everything. Because we need all of these excitements. And you know what we need? We need a second honeymoon. Because I think of that guy, I was told, he comes in, he grabs a handful of bacon, a coffee, and he kisses his wife on a high-protein diet. Kisses her on the forehead, and she goes, have a great day. Remember what today is. He doesn't. We don't, okay? He's thumbing through his planner. He's looking on his phone. He says, boy, on the way to work, he calls and says, send a dozen roses to my house with a card that says, on this our special day, love me. Feels pretty good about that until he gets to the office and went, wait, I sent that for birthday. This could be one of the big ones. Make that 2 dozen, okay? Off he sends them. At lunchtime, he's out and about. He says, I might want to bolster this a little bit. I remember she said that she saw this little tennis bracelet in the jewelry store. I didn't know she played tennis, but I'm going to go get it for her. Ladies, explain that one to your husbands if you would, because he still doesn't know that. So he goes in, he buys that little bangle for her, and then he thinks, boy, I need to give it to her tonight. We need to go to dinner. She's wanting to go to that fancy restaurant, and he calls and leaves a message. She's out picking up the kids. She says, hey, I thought since this was such a special day, we ought to go out to that special restaurant that you've been wanting to go to. And he's headed home, and then remembers last time they tried to go there, she says, I can't go there. It's too fancy. I got nothing to wear. Off the highway he goes, stops in his boutique. I mean, he's trying to do everything, and he gets home. And there on the counter are those roses, fanned out like the NBC peacock. There's a little card that says, on this, our special day, love me. She comes walking into the room. She's glowing like the Madonna. Not Madonna, but the Madonna. And he drapes that bracelet over his wrist, like this. And she's just aglow. And he says, did you get my message? And her countenance falls, and she goes, yeah, honey, I told you I can't go to that restaurant. And he goes, ta-da! She says, you are the best husband ever. You are so thoughtful. I will not forget this Groundhog's Day as long as I live. Right? One exciting day after another. We need endless excitement. And when the excitement is gone, what do? I'm done. I need something else. It's true. That's what happened. I need an excitement, and if it's not an excitement at home, I'll find an excitement somewhere else. In fact, a secret might be an excitement. Something that's not supposed to happen. You ever notice that couples that one of the spouses is cheating? You're like, well, why are you staying in this? Because there's a excitement about doing this kind of secret. We'll meet this, and we'll eat here, and we'll go do that. It'll be exciting. It'll be like a mystery, And so all of these things are constant need for excitement. And then when the excitement fails, so does the marriage. Let me tell you what an exciting day is at Wayne and Tami's house. A number of years ago, Tami got up in the night to use the bathroom, which she occasionally will, and I hear a thud in the bathroom. I go in there, I find her in the floor, kind of in a huddle. I said, are you all right, Tam? And she doesn't say anything. I said, Tam, are you all right? I kneel down beside her, I roll her head over and back, and her eyes have rolled back in her head, and she is unresponsive. And what seemed like hours, but probably was only moments, I'm yelling, Tam, I'm shaking her, but in my head I'm going, I had an aunt that got up in the night. She had a cerebral aneurysm and she died in the bathroom. And then I think about the fact, well, wait a minute, what am I going to tell her kids? This can't be happening. We've not been married that long. How am I going to get to the phone to call 911? How am I going to unlock the door? I mean, all these man things are going through there. Meanwhile, I'm going, Tam.
And
Tam.
I can hear him. I can hear him in my head, but I can't get my voice to work. It was the weirdest thing. Until
finally, this sweet little voice comes out. What? I can hear you. Two very near-death experiences for her, because I almost killed her right then. But it turned out, though, that it was not anything extremely serious. But at that moment, I thought it was, and I came to this realization. Here's an exciting day when her shoes are next to my shoes. Whether we're doing something fun like going to New England, whether we're sitting and watching a TV program, even if we're sitting side by side and there is a tragedy or a calamity or something that we're needing to deal with, it's a great day because her shoes are next to my shoes. And that's when we are looking for something beyond the superficial, beyond the endless excitement that you can. One guy said, endless excitement in marriage is like trying to stay up by jumping. All you do is get tired, right?
And the last one we wanted to talk to you about is so many couples come into marriage looking for happiness. That's what they're looking for. I'm going to say I do and I will be happy forever. That's the purpose of marriage. In fact, we've had even a couple of my children say to me, "Oh, but Mom, wouldn't God want me to be happy? Doesn't God want me to be happy?" And I'm like, yes, He does. But God is more concerned with your holiness than your happiness. And I believe that when we focus on Him, when we can get that holiness, that following Jesus into place, then happiness falls into place after that. But they're so focused on, actually it's focused on self is what it is. And I'll get a phone call from a woman and she'll go, I can't do this anymore. I didn't want this. This is what I wanted. And before I long, she's going, I. And I listen, and I'm patient with her. And then it's easy for me because I can point out to her, all I'm hearing is you focused on yourself. That's all I'm hearing. You need to step back. Step out of this. And we do. We get caught up. In fact, the world we live in tells us this is all about you. You have the right to. You have this is your place. What do you need?
You deserve better than him.
Yes, you deserve better than that. And that's what the world
Which always
tells
comes
us.
from a bunch of single girls or divorcees.
Yes.
You deserve better than that.
Relatives.
Or relatives, yeah. A lot of counselors there, not much counsel.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. So understanding that there is so much more that God intended for our marriages. There's a holiness aspect to it. And Wayne's going to talk some more about that later. But understanding the happiness is just the shallow part of this walk here on this earth. That's the shallow part. Does it come? I believe it does. I believe it does as we grow in the Lord and we learn to walk with Him, and as we're pulling to be closer to Jesus, it falls into place. But that's not our purpose here, is to be happy. There's a difference between joy and happy, but that's another lesson altogether.
Yeah, I always say that it's looking for happiness is like looking up at God and saying, "Don't you want me to be happy?" And He says, "That's what you want out of marriage? I've got a whole lot more planned than that. If you want that kind of happiness, go get ice cream." Right? I mean, just go and get ice cream. But if you want this something more, and it's something more that we're going to try to kind of unpack throughout the day today, and that is that God has something more than just happily ever after. In fact, just to give you a little bit of teaser, what He has planned for you is a happily forever after, and marriage is a part of that great plan. And so what we want to do today is we want to say, okay, so how do we move from looking for happily ever after to finding that happily forever after that produces a healthier marriage and a happier marriage, a longer lasting marriage, a fulfilling marriage, a marriage that overcomes in the face of certain difficulties, the kind of marriage that God intended it to be. And even though we don't even, because of these misconceptions, fully realize it down deep inside, it's exactly the marriage that we're looking for. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do so in a couple of these all-together sessions, but we're also going to have some breakout sessions. We risk a little bit here the fact that you have couples come in for a marriage seminar and they spend half the day separated. I don't know. Maybe that's practice for later, right, or something. I don't know. But we're going to let Tami have some time with the ladies, and I'm going to have some time where we can talk kind of man to man and lady to lady. And so we're going to give you about a 15-minute break right here. Wet your whistle, as they say, or if you need to get rid of that coffee you had earlier today. And then at straight up 10 o'clock, guys, if you'll meet me downstairs, and ladies, you can just gather in here. And I know you're going to be blessed by Tami this morning. So thank you very much for being here and spending a Saturday with us.